The coaches and quarterbacks of the Big 12 college experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million up for grabs. Get all the details at circasports.com. And welcome, everybody, back to the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We are moving along with our preseason episodes, and we got coaches and quarterbacks today on the slate. I am one of your hosts, co-hosts, Moneyline Mac, the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin, and I am joined each and every episode by co-hosts, one of the co-hosts. He was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family in Ames, Iowa. He is a graduate of the great university, West Virginia University, lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. He is a walking contradiction. Rambling Rush, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. Excited to talk some coaches and quarterbacks, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of some responses on Twitter, like Troy's been getting lately, from these rankings as well. And also, Ryan, I want to give you a shout out back. Each episode you're in is getting like, you must have been practicing that. You're almost getting to like opera singer standpoint. Like you're holding that in. It sounds good, brother.
For every beer, I can add 5 seconds. So yeah, I'm going to just next time I'll add another beer before I get on this show. So shout out to the chat as well. And batting in the 3-hole. He's always fighting a family civil war among the Big 12. He's got his seeds spread everywhere, whether it's at Central Florida, the Oklahoma schools, TCU, Houston, Lubbock. He's got it all. The Big 12 guru, Troy Chewning. How are you doing, brother?
Pretty good. At least we get to get into some actual football stuff here in this episode instead of fantasy land. So, coaches and quarterbacks, these matter quite a bit when it comes to this game. So kind of excited to debate some of these. I know I have some that I'm putting out there in hopes of responses. So we'll see how that goes.
We would never do that. And I like the last episode with the fan bases, the venues, go check out that episode from Monday. I'm sure everybody will agree on these rankings because everybody agrees with quarterback rankings and coaches rankings. And anytime you're talking power rankings, it brings out the debate, which we love on the college experience. Before we dive into it, Rush, I'll start with you. We're going to lead it off with coaches before quarterbacks. What was one of the main things you looked at for a criteria? Because there's a lot of different ways we could go with this. What did you look at?
So body of work, obviously, have they sustained success? How long they've sustained success at the Division I level, especially if they've been in the Big 12. Also, there's coaches out there like Lance Leipold, who, came into Kansas recently, was at Wisconsin Whitewater before, did well at the D3, saw him turn Kansas around. So even though maybe they haven't been at the Division I level long enough, if they were able to turn around a program pretty quickly, but also too is like everything else in life, there's a bell curve to it. There's some coaches that may have a great body of work, but also kind of seems like they're out the door. And then also if any coaches are on the hot seat and then this is their last chance to sign, So we'll see, man. We'll get to it here in a second.
Yes, we will. And Troy, how about you? With the way that you broke down your rankings, quarterbacks, coaches, whichever one.
I did quarterbacks, just whichever ones that the quarterbacks was more of the eye test. The coaches, I kind of pay attention to what kind of talent level they have, and if they're finishing with records that are above that talent level, I pretty much qualify them as a pretty solid coach and kind of ranked based on that. So there's a few guys that haven't accomplished much recently, and they're tumbling down the rankings.
And Ryan, I know we're getting to we're doing coaches first and getting to quarterback, something from the quarterback end. I just want to remind everyone, I think coaches, there's more you can rank off of. You can make your points better, but but when it comes to quarterbacks, I mean, we saw Duggan last year at TCU. He was second string, and now he ends up taking the team to the national championship and getting drafted and for the Chargers. So it's definitely, you just have to kind of go off that gut feeling with the quarterbacks. I have no idea how you guys, we're doing the blind test. Have no idea how you guys ranked any of these. So I could definitely see our quarterbacks being all over the place between the three of us.
Well, and I think it's a great point that you dive in with the quarterbacks is you don't know as much because we don't know. There's still some quarterback competitions going out there. For example, West Virginia, with Nico and Garrett Green, it looks like we know who the quarterback's going to be or who it's going to be, but it's not official yet. And we'll talk about it too when we get to the quarterbacks. The transfer portal window is still not closed. I mean, we still got 4 weeks before we kick the ball off. I mean, anybody can go in the portal, for example, like a Spencer Sanders. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing how our quarterback rankings and coaches rankings differ. But before we do so, got to get us paid at Circa Sports. Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back. $14 million in guaranteed prizes are up for grabs. Circa Millions, 5 NFL picks ATS each week. Just pick a different money line dog each and every week. Enter in Vegas, play from wherever. Sports Gambling Podcast will be out there the last weekend in August. That is the circasports.com for all details. The circasports.com. And you know who's out there at Circa Sports right now is Pick Dundee. He's out there for Mountain West Media Days, and I think he's staying out for Pac-12 as well. So if you see Pick Dundee out there in Circa Sports there, say hello. Tell him you're a fan of the college experience, and enter. Make sure you enter so you can win $14 million.
Maybe one of the last Pac-12 media days.
It could be.
I don't know about the last, but they might only have a few more years.
Or it could be on a channel that we'll never be able to find. So maybe it'll be available in Baghdad or something. So yeah, we'll worry about that when we get
Taliban
to it.
starts competing for rights.
Damn Saudi Arabians are taking over freaking the college football after they took over.
We want to watch touchdowns too.
Hey, everybody wants a piece of the pie. All right, coaches, we'll go 14-1 just like we did with the college venues. Rush, I will let you lead it off with, we'll say the least best again.
Least best. I am starting off with Scott Satterfield, the former Louisville and App State coach. Excellent work at App State. Louisville, on the other hand, very up and down, coming into a Cincinnati program that's expected to be low this year. The good news for him is he's not going to be on the hot seat because the expectations are so low. But just not a lot of hope from him or the Cincinnati program this year.
Troy, lead it off. Let's hear a bold take.
Brent Venables is the worst coach in the league. He's got to be the worst, right? I mean, if you're comparing talent level, you got to get more than 6 wins out of any team that's been in Norman in the last 25 years. You got to get more than 6 wins. And for that to be his first stab at like a big coaching job, that's scary, man. That could snowball real quickly in the wrong direction.
So I have Venables as well. The first losing season since 1998. That's not a typo in Norman. And the reason, another reason why I ranked him last is he's a defensive guy, and they had the worst defense in the Big 12. I mean, how is your side of the ball going to take a step? I thought maybe the offense would take a step back with Caleb Williams going to USC, but it was his defense. And, I mean, we're going off body of work. He's got a losing record at Oklahoma. So I know it's a small sample size, but it's not like he took over Kansas. He took over fucking Oklahoma. So I got, by default, I got Venables at last. Back to you, Rush, for your number 13.
Number 13. I think this is going to surprise a couple folks. I have Dana Holgorsen, actually. I know Dana Holgerson's body of work. It's great. When we didn't want him to leave West Virginia, we would rather have them paid him $4 million instead of bringing Neil Brown for $2.5 million. We loved him here. Still love him. Appreciate all that he did here in Morgantown. Dana, to me, I said it on the last episode when we were talking about the fans. There's just one image at him in Houston, and I just can't get out of my head. I think they played a Thursday night. I forgot who it was, but it was at home. And just he was going off. The fans were booing him, the fans that were still there. He is just on the way out. He's probably going to be Saban's offensive coordinator next year or something. He's at this point in the career where I think football's gone a different way than him. And I just think he's more of a coordinator now.
Troy?
Saban's offensive coordinator would be a really good job for Dana.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh man, get that like almost skirted egg mullet going. Oh man, crushing the trailer park girls. Oh baby. 13s for me, it's Scott Satterfield, just kind of the same thing as Brent Venables. He did okay at Appalachian State, and getting the talent step up and not being able to produce is just big red flag. So I'm kind of worried about him making this transition to a tough league now too. Scott Satterfield, rough times, I think, for this year.
Yeah. Especially with him, like he didn't do well at Louisville. I'm actually surprised he got the Cincinnati job, but hey, he has a chance.
I almost went Satterfield because of not living up to expectations, but next on my list, Steve Sarkisian. And shocker. I know that's everybody's gonna be like, oh, you hate Texas. He's 13-12 at Texas. He's never won more than 9 games, and he didn't coach at a mid-major. He coached at USC in Texas now, 2 blue bloods. I get that they're talented. Hell, they're talented every year. They're talented at USC, talented at Texas. Talking about, like what Troy said, not being able to get what you should out of your roster, he should have at least a 1 double-digit win season. And I know everybody's saying this is going to be the year. Go prove it for a change. Until then, he's at the bottom with Brent Venables for me. Back to you, Rush.
Number 12, I am joining you, Ryan, and going with the alcoholic Mormon or the Mormon alcoholic, however you want to put that. It's like you said, he's 13-12. You have a program like Texas. You're about to go to the SEC. You need to be winning more than 1 game above 500. I mean, we saw when he left USC how bad that was, and that's why we're getting him the Mormon alcoholic title. Came in offensive coordinator at Alabama. I thought they've had better offensive coordinators. Saban's done better with other head coaches. It's just, to me, he just doesn't give a team that like he relies too much on the program's name to bring him in than his own capabilities. So I'm with you. Number 12, I got Steve Sarkisian.
I ranked Sark a little differently on a different scale than you guys. But number 12, I have Lance Leipold. I just haven't seen him do enough. I really think he is a guy that could move in the opposite direction of someone like a Venables, and a pretty solid year this year for Kansas. He's going to move up 5 or 7 spots in these coaching rankings over a year. I just need to see him do it.
I got you. Yeah, back to me. Same reasons, guy you already named, and the only reason he's ahead of the other two is just he hasn't had the level of talent that the other two have had, but he's failed just as much as they have recently. That's Satterfield at Louisville. He had a losing record at Louisville in the ACC, which I'm kind of surprised he got the Cincinnati job, considering that, and considering Malik Cunningham was electric. I mean, 7-5, that was his big time underachievement last year. He's only ahead of Sark and Venables just because those two are at Texas and Oklahoma and are 500 coaches so far. So that's my logic on it. So back to you, Rush, for number 11.
So this is when I have Brent Venables. I'm a little more lenient towards his season last year, especially with the transfer portal and everything that's happened. I'm more understanding towards the fact that he, most of that team left with USC or went, it's not the Oklahoma they expected. Totally get what you're saying, Ryan. If you're a defensive guy, the defense should be your best unit on the field. I also think, when you go from a coordinator job to a head coaching job, it's just, there's so much more that happens. You end up becoming more of a manager, getting people in the right places than actually like an X's and O's guy, for a head coach. But at the end of the day, I think he's a brilliant coach, but he's a brilliant coach when he coaches defense. He's a defensive coordinator. And I think after this season, Oklahoma will fire him. He'll go be a DC, maybe go back to Clemson or something like that, and probably do an excellent job there. Fantastic number 2. But I think Oklahoma will have a new coach next year, especially going into the SEC.
At number 11, I have Neil Brown. I think I'm going to, like I said, we're jumping on the Neil Brown bandwagon, but I don't think he's going to get fired. I think he's got a chance to move up, and just to compare him to somebody like Venables, because you're talking about him. I think if he had the talent of Oklahoma's team without USC transfers at West Virginia, you would have a tough time winning a game in Morgantown with that level of talent. So I think he just kind of suffers from, he got to get some more money in the NIL and get some more talented players there. But I think he has a chance to move up this year on this rankings.
Troy, you and I are seeing eye to eye again here. I got Neil. I can't rank him above 11 when you're 14-21 in the Big 12, 3 out of 4 losing seasons. And I mean, he's never finished in the top half of the league. His best year was tied for 5th. I think Neil, like you said, we're hopeful that they're able to establish an identity. And in my opinion, that's the reason he has not had success in his 4 years at West Virginia. And honestly, in my opinion, that's why I have Dana Holgorsen higher, because of Dana was able to have sustained success. But Neil just hasn't able to get it going. Not saying, kind of like Sark, not saying he can't do it this year, or Venables, like Venables as well. Not saying he can't do it, but he just hasn't done it. So with that said, I can't rank him above 9 on my list. And we will get to our top 10 after I talk about Underdog Fantasy, because we are brought to you by Best Ball Mania is here. And Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL player props. So many ways to win over on Underdog, and Fantasy is available in so many different states. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit up to $100. That's the UnderdogFantasy.com promo code SGPN. And we're back on the Big 12 College Experience, and I will kick it back to Rush to start off our top 10 coaches out of 14.
Yep, number 10, I am going Neil Brown now. The reason I have him at number 10 and not last like a lot of other lists is I feel like if Neil Brown, kind of like what you were saying, Troy, if he was at Oklahoma, Texas, some of these other programs, he'd actually be doing a lot better. Or if he had the talent there, I think he would do better than, Sarkisian or Venables. Neil Brown, the recruiter, we've never had an issue with him. He's actually been a fantastic recruiter. He just can't keep that talent because they haven't been doing well enough to, retain talent, and people want to go other places. Something about Neil Brown that I'm giving him a little leniency on too during Big 12 Media Day for West Virginia. He was like, look, he kind of was like, I messed up. Now we're taking NIL, we're taking transfer portal. We understand we got our formula. We're looking for new 20 kids coming out of high school every year. And then the rest we're going to get from the transfer portal. So I think Neil Brown is starting to embrace the transfer portal. I know you brought up he's had 3 out of 4 losing seasons, Ryan. I will say the first season he came in and finishing, I think it was 5-7, was actually miraculous. Like, he should have finished nowhere near that. I think there have been times where he's coached up, but also he's made some really boneheaded and dumb mistakes, and sometimes he hasn't gone out of his own way. So I think there's a chance. I think at a minimum, he does decent this year, maybe a good 6-6 year, maybe win the bowl, go 7-6. He'll at least finish out his contract at West Virginia. At one time too, Auburn was calling him. Other, schools were seeing if he was interested or not. But I think with West Virginia, more people were mad at Shane Lyons extending Neil Brown just being 500 and giving him such a bad contract, then they were actually mad at Neil Brown. I'm not saying people aren't at Neil Brown, but they're mad that it was harder to get rid of him if needed. So I'll give Neil Brown a little benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's atrocious as some people make him out to be. I think he's done okay at times. So number 10, Neil Brown.
I'm
Troy.
This is number 10 is right where I think Dana Holgorsen is. I think he's kind of like the offensive Brent Venables, where as an offensive coordinator, he's a genius, and the way that he describes what he wants to get done in their plan of attack, it seems like it works pretty well. It's just the whole other side of the ball. He's got to really hope that he's got some pretty studded defensive coordinators, or, you know, keeps guys around for multiple years on the defense. And with neither of those happening, his record kind of shows that he's really just one-sided, and that's why I can't rank him super duper high.
Completely agree with you, Troy. Another thing with, sorry, Ryan, to interrupt, but a thing with Dana, and that was my point, was with NIL and transfer portal now. I think Dana was a fine, obviously, head coach when we saw him at West Virginia before all that stuff. But I think the type of personality, the type of just kind of hard-ass Dana Holgorsen is, he just doesn't really fit the mold of today's head coach of what you need to succeed. So I agree, and that's why I had him a lot lower on my list. I think you're right. He's the offensive coordinator, and Venables is the defensive coordinator that are head coaches now.
Yeah, and that gets me to my number 10. And this guy was probably the hardest guy for me to rank. I'm going to go to Provo Kalani Sitake. And, I mean, he's had success. It's hard to gauge just because he's from an independent. He's 56 of 34. Took over a good program, though. Bronco Mendenhall had that thing going in humming. I mean, he was 99 and 39 before he got there. It's kind of been a little bit of up and down in BYU under Sitake, but for the most part, he's a solid football coach. I think more the jury will be out on Sitake in these years to come in the Big 12. So I think 10's a good spot for him. A little bit of unknown for me. Rush, I'll kick it to you as the BYU expert. I don't know where you have Sitake.
I have him in a little bit. I'll continue that conversation here, but at number 9, I have Joey McGuire, Texas Tech. The first year last year was I always try to get his last name right, and I don't know why. Dave, you're gonna have to help me out here, Troy.
Dave Aranda. Yeah.
Dave Aranda. I always want to say Arianada. I don't know why. It's like a baseball
pronunciations is not our strong suit.
No, it's not. And we say that on the Ryan and Rush show. It's like I'm trying to reference a Dominican pitcher instead of a college football head coach. You know, it was good coordinator for him. Had success last year at Texas Tech. People are expecting Texas Tech to make that jump this year, but will they make this jump? So if Texas Tech makes the jump, then yeah, he's here to make the jump on the list as well. But it just seems like for right now, Joey McGuire, it's where he should be.
Troy, for your number 9.
For my number 9, I also have Kalani Sitake. Sitake mushrooms, but
he sounds like a shot. Sitake, I'll take a Sitake.
It's almost like the spot that I'm ranking somebody at with, you know, hopes that I'm nudging him up the ladder instead of just putting him super far down, because there's not too much that I've seen about him. Definitely haven't gone through any of his like offensive and defensive tendencies and whatnot. So just kind of throwing him in there, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, that was kind of my logic. Rush probably will have a better gauge and a better breakdown on Sitake. It's just hard for Troy and I just coming from the independent. Rush, you had McGuire at number 9, correct?
Yes.
This is where I have McGuire, and it's not that I don't think Joey McGuire is a really good coach, and next year he may be in our top 5, but it's only 1 year body of work. They finished strong. I get that. He did a hell of a job at Baylor too, and I think with Aranda as well, like you said, we'll see how if they're able to bounce back the second year without Joey McGuire and Waco. But I just need to see another year of sample size for me personally with Joey McGuire before I rank him in the top half. So that's why I have McGuire at 9. Not hating on him. Good coach. I think things are going in the right direction in Lubbock. Back to you, Rush.
Number 8. This is where I have Kalani Sitake. So here's the thing about Kalani is when he started out at BYU, I think he tried to be part of that X's and O's game. And I think why he is actually a great fit at BYU is because, you know, he played there. A lot of Polynesians are Mormon. He brings in, of course, we'll hear the game. And when we try to do BYU breakdowns, those pronunciations are going to be great. We'll all have a great time. But I mean, I've seen him, like, he was the typical guy. He won the games he was supposed to win. He lost the games or blew the games or at the end that he, you know, he basically lost the games he should have lost. He never really stepped up in that moment. A lot of the years going into BYU is like, oh, is this the year BYU kind of gets into the playoffs or gets to that BCS bowl? I think in recent years, he's really kind of taken a step back and letting his coordinators do their thing. And he's more of the culture guy, the head coach, hey, I'm going to put people where they need to be. And then I trust the coaches I've hired to execute how they need to execute, right? We're seeing it with the new defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, this year, who could be BYU's coach in the future. I mean, there was a time where Sataki was rumored to be the next Oregon coach. So he has to stay out of his own way. That's basically what it comes down for him. If he stays out of his own way, he will be very successful. If he is all of a sudden like, ooh, let me get in on this, watch out. So that's my breakdown on him.
No Sataki for you?
1 year, no Sataki.
Troy, you for number 8.
Just expanding on Sataki, the move to a tougher, more serious league. I know they've played with the big boys, but just the continuity of, hey, these are going to be the teams that we're going to build rivalries and stuff with. That might help him just be the game manager instead of try to step on too many toes. At number 8, this was an automatic pick. It has nothing to do with how shitty of a coach he is. 0.08 is Steve Sarkisian. He should not be coaching the game unless he's blowing 0.08 or above. It should be like reverse interlock on his microphone. There's a little pickup. And if he's not drunk enough, he can't call plays.
It's like in Trailer Park Boys where he's like, I'm 0.12.
Right in the fucking slot,
baby. Oh, time for a little drinky poo.
I love it. For my number 8, and I think I'm going to have him lower than most people will, Dave Aranda at Baylor. I know he won a Big 12 championship, but he's also got a losing record in the Big 12 in his 3 years. I think really losing McGuire really hurt last year. We'll see if they can bounce back. Did a great job at LSU as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a solid coach. But I'm not going to rank him at the top half just based on the body of work of being kind of up and down in his tenure so far in Waco. Back to you, Rush, to start our top half of the league.
All right, let me get this pronunciation correct. I know everyone said it a million times. This is where I have Dave Aranda. There we go.
Yes.
I had to write it out. Like you said, Ryan, losing record at Baylor. However, the question for him is, what Dave Aranda are we going to see? Are we going to see the Big 12 winner of 2 years ago, or are we going to see him slide like he did last year? I've brought it up time and time again. I think Baylor's the team no one's talking about. And maybe this is a reason why no one's talking about Baylor, because they don't know what version of Baylor is going to come out. But I also think when no one's talking about Baylor, watch out for Baylor. They're one of those types of teams. So I'd be really curious to see how he backs it up this year. I think he is a great coach. I think he is a capable and good coach and can be a great coach. But that lies in being able to be consistent. So that's where I have Dave Aranda.
Good pronunciation there. You want a Sataki? You want a Sataki with your Aranda?
There you go.
Back to you, Troy.
Number 7 is where I have Joey McGuire. I just need to see him put together a full season, but was very impressive at the back half of the year last year. And once again, just trying to nudge him up and kind of forget about just where Sark is at on the list. It's more of for whenever we get a graphic or if Noah does anything or anything for us, so we can get the 0.08 was the Sark ranking.
So you got McGuire at
7.
under the limit and Sark over the limit. That gets me to 7. I got Lance Leipold. You guys kind of laid it out on Leipold. You want to see more? In my opinion, a 6-win season at Kansas is a 10-win. And the year before that, a 2-win season in your first year where you take over the job. You don't even get a full off season. You get 2 months to prepare. You win at Texas with Sarkisian and all those 5 stars. That's basically you basically went bowling that year, in my opinion. Did a great job at Wisconsin Whitewater. It's a big year, though. So I got him at number 7. I think he's done an unbelievable job so far in Kansas, making them relevant. So, Rush, back to you for 6.
Yeah, this is where Lance Leipold comes in for me. I mean, yeah, usually I think he would be near that kind of Joey McGuire mark, further down the list. But what he did at Kansas, that type of program, I mean, when's the last time Kansas football's been relevant, I think, 07, 08. He just turned that program around. And then, like you said, 2 years ago, getting the win at Texas. Last year, Jalon Daniels doesn't go down. Who knows? Maybe that's 8-9 wins. Maybe it's a completely different. So what he's lacking was what we're all saying is the consistency, because it's where he came from before, Wisconsin Whitewater. I mean, Division III school, excellent record there. If you want to go look up what he did there, it was incredible. But, that's Division III football, not Power 5 football. So I'm with you guys, 6, and, looking forward to seeing if he can become one of the, kind of that next Matt Campbell where you find your place and you stick there and you start sustaining success.
So we've got the Lance Leipold weighted wins is year 1. Each win was basically worth 3 wins. And then year 2, it dropped down to 2 wins. Yep. So this year is his first real record. Whatever he goes this year is he's like a golfer that finally got to scratch and he's about to tee off and he's just going to get ripped to pieces. I've got Gundy at number 6, actually.
Wow.
He's not as high on my list right now, because there's been a couple of teams here that were 1 or 2 plays away from maybe even getting into a college football playoff scenario or something like that, getting into a national title the year that they couldn't go up and lost in double overtime with a 28-year-old quarterback at Ames. He just has never taken that step into the next level coach. And because of that, I've got him a little bit further down the list, trying to not be super biased.
Is CNN paying you to say that?
This is a paid advertisement.
Brought to you by CNN.
They hate Gundy.
Brought to you by OANhaters.org. OAN.
Oh, yeah. They're paying you right now to shit on Gundy. I will go to Gundy's friend, and I have him way higher on the list. And I think just with the way I view this guy, I love this guy personally, and that's the Red Bull, Mr. Red Bull, Dana Holgorsen. Who's got the second most active Big 12 wins in this league? It's Dana Holgorsen. He's 38-32 in his time at West Virginia. We talk about the standard at West Virginia being 7-8 wins is where we should be. Dana did that every single year at West Virginia except for 1 year, which is where Neil's trying to get this program. I think Neil's struggling. I know you could say the first year the program is a little bit in shambles, but I think Dana didn't recruit at a high level either, and he found ways to patch things up with JUCOs, transfers, and he always found a way to win 7-8 games. And I honestly, in my opinion, I think him being on the hot seat's a little bit unfair because he's won 20 games at Houston in the last 2 years. I think people just don't like him because of his antics, and he's just a madman, and maybe it's his hair. I don't know. So I think he's one of the more underrated coaches. He's definitely entertaining. So I got Dana at number 6. Rush?
This is where from Lance Leipold, I'm putting in, I brought it up earlier, Matt Campbell. Great coach, fits the Iowa State culture perfect. I don't know how he would do if he went to another school. But I know he's at the perfect fit. I know what he's done to Iowa State, because you remember, Ryan, Kansas and Iowa State were the 2 automatic wins every year in football. And clearly that is, both of them are especially not the case anymore. But for a while, Iowa State didn't become the case. I'm pretty sure it was the Fiesta Bowl they won during the pandemic year. I think it was, I don't remember which BCS Bowl it was. But hell of a coach. It's going to be interesting because I did their preview with Pick Dundee. He's not a transfer portal guy at all. So is this going to be one of those things that comes back to bite him? Or is he able, because he creates such a great culture that it's family and he does better because of it? Interesting, but hey, he's sustained success long enough, especially at a program like Iowa State. He's where he's meant to be, and great coach, Matt Campbell.
It seems like a very good time to make that zag when everybody else is doing the same zig of like, let's pump our NIL up. Let's get all of our recruits through this long-term thing. Just go ahead and be like, we're not really competing for those guys. We want the guys that are going to play like 4 and 5 stars because they stayed with the system for 3 years.
Yeah.
But where are we at? Number 5, right? I've got Chris Klieman from Kansas State. It's just a very solid ranking. Nothing super duper flashy, but results say he's getting the job done. And again, this could be a year where he really jumps up over some of these guys that I might be expecting a little bit too much from that are above him.
Yeah, no, I like Klieman. He's higher on my list. I'll get to him in a minute. I struggled with 5 once I get to the top 5. I had an easy time differentiating my top 5 from 6 through 14. I went Sonny Dykes at 5, and I know he just ran the table in his first year at TCU. But at SMU, they were just solid. Same league that Dana's coming from. He was not good at Cal. Maybe that says more about the Cal job, to be honest. But I just want to see maybe another year from Sonny Dykes. How does he build off of what he did last year? He took over a program that Patterson had built up, and he did a hell of a job last year. Love Sonny Dykes. Thought he did a great job. I want to see a little bit more of a sample size at TCU before I move him up. Rush?
Number 4, I have former Mr. Auburn, Gus Malzahn, at UCF. I think he's kind of speaking like Matt Campbell. He found his perfect place at Iowa State. I think it's the same thing with Gus. I think UCF is his home. I mean, he took Auburn to the national championship in his first year. I mean, Auburn hasn't been the same since he left. Maybe it was time for him to go there, but they still haven't been the same. I think he's where he's meant to be, especially now that they're coming back into the Big 12. So he gets kind of a Power 5 job back. I think he has a lot to prove. I mean, you see him on the sideline. There's something about the energy he brings to that team, but excellent coach. If I were him, I would not be trying to look for anything else. I would not try to go back to the SEC. I would dominate with potentially what we've talked about, boys, in the next, 5 years. The UCF could be the football university in the state of Florida. And if it's so, it's because of Gus. So have him at number 4.
My number 4 is along the lines of Ryan. I've got Sonny Dykes at number 4, and I even have him a little bit inflated because he decided to go out and hire Kendall Briles to work with Chandler Morris, Chad Morris's kid. So it's kind of like they're really sleeping around. There's a connection to all of these guys that are working together again at TCU, and I think Kendall wants to kind of get back to a quick passing, heavy tempo offense instead of like where he was doing at Arkansas, a lot of quarterback run and motions. But Sonny Dykes overperformed last year, might underperform a little bit this year, but once again, you can't let recency bias take away that he stepped right in there and showed that he was ready for the big leagues, and I still see them playing pretty well again this year.
Yeah, Sonny Dykes, and that gets me right to kind of like Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes went to the national championship his first year. So did Gus Malzahn at Auburn. I want to see basically what Gus Malzahn was able to do at Auburn, Sonny Dykes do at TCU, have sustained success, go 70-35 or whatever Gus was able to do at Auburn, and then take it over to UCF, what he's done recently. That program's only going in the right direction. By the end, in a couple years, he may be number 1 or 2 on this list. Rush, who do you have at number 3 to start out our top 3s?
This is when I bring up the former Texas Tech first baseman, Sonny Dykes. I did not realize he was a big baseball guy. He played college baseball. You brought up, Ryan, that he didn't do well at Cal. And I just don't think Cal's a football program that's real. I mean, it has been relevant since Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback. And even then it was kind of like, oh, look at this stud quarterback. But he didn't do it. His first year, he was atrocious, but he didn't do terrible. And then obviously we saw what he did at SMU. We saw what he did last year. I get we want to see him the continued success at TCU, but he's had 2 other head coaching jobs where for what he had, I feel like he's done well at. So I have Sonny Dykes at number 3.
Number 3 is where I have Dave Aranda. For no other reason than I'm really hoping that the defense can kind of get shored up and kind of like the approach of Matt Campbell, maybe the zig into, or the zag instead of the zig of let's be the Big 12 school that starts concentrating on having, a front 4 and a linebacking core that's really going to get you ready for the next level. I just like listening to Dave Aranda talk. He seems like he's way smarter than everybody.
Preacher.
And yeah, it's just, but it doesn't come off as super duper preachy. I mean, he seems like it's trying to be, but you stay interested. So I kind of respect, hopefully, his ability to get a message across.
Yeah. I mean, we're all singing the praises of the same guys, including Aranda. I got Matt Campbell at number 3. It seems like I got him the highest out of us. Perfect culture guy, like you said. He has a winning record at Iowa State in the Big 12, including a Big 12 championship appearance. I think that this is a great bounce back opportunity. And I like that he was really, really good at Toledo, 35-15, 24-8 in the MAC. So it's not just a one-hit wonder. So yeah, I got Matt Campbell at number 3. Back to you, Rush.
The following message is brought to you by OAN. Number 2, I have Mike Gundy. I mean, the guy's just been incredible at Oklahoma State. I've never really, unlike you, Troy, I've never had like a relation to Oklahoma State. I've been to Stillwater once. I think it's a great campus. I do like their colors, but there's something about Gundy and his energy and just what he brings on. Obviously, he's a great coach. He's, at least will give you a winning season. The problem with Gundy, it's, as Troy's called it in the past, the Pope choke. I would like to see him finish it out. Imagine what would have happened in that Baylor game, right? If the guy made the tackle at the end and Oklahoma State ended up being the Big 12 champs.
Even when he was quarterback, he couldn't throw the little 3 or 4 yard pass to the tight end in the end zone, and the tight, it was a great pass. He did everything he was supposed to do and just dropped the ball.
Well, it's perfect. Gundy likes doing the hard things. He does great at the hard things, but when it comes to the easy things, that's where he struggles. It's like someone shooting a 3-pointer, wide open, can't make it. But if I have 2 guys in the face fading away, it'll swish. And that's who Gundy is. So at least he does the hard things right. He keeps it entertaining. He'll keep your team in it. But I have Mike Gundy at number 2.
How about you, Troy?
I actually have Matt Campbell the highest because I have him here at number 2.
Oh, I thought you said him. Yeah, you do have him the highest.
Yeah, I do. I really like Matt Campbell. He just something about his face looks kind of tough. I would listen to him if we were getting in the trenches and just doing some dumb Oklahoma drills or something like that. And I look over and he's got a little bit of sweat on him and he just looks kind of like a tough country Midwest guy. And I think he's done the best with the lack of talent and staying in the competition level of this league. Iowa State's always a player, and it's one of those places you hate to fucking go play at. And he's just been running things pretty well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And another guy for me that's been running a hell of a program, that's the defending Big 12 champion. Chris Klieman is my number 2 coach in the Big 12, 30-20 at K-State. Obviously, they had the magical year. It took them a couple years to get that thing going in the right direction. They're just like Iowa State, build their program with veteran guys. And I look at what he did before he got to K-State. 4 national championships in 5 years for the Bison. I know that's expectation, but hey, there's something said for being the hunted and coming through. So I got Chris Klieman going for back-to-back at number 2 for me.
And Ryan, that's who I have at number 1. I know he hasn't been at Kansas State the longest. I know we need to see more consistency and some success. And, we're about to get to the quarterbacks here. He has the quarterback to do it this coming year. But like you said, at his previous school, North Dakota State, I mean, the guy only lost 1 game in the, how they do the tournament style in the FCS. Big 12 championship last year, before TCU obviously got their ass kicked by Georgia. It was their only loss. I mean, the guy he's at the right place at the right time with the right people. And sometimes that is the winning formula. And I think he has that right now. So hopefully he keeps it going.
Troy?
I've got old Gus Malzahn at number 1, baby.
I like it. We're all different.
Yeah, Gus, nobody else, none of these other coaches could go coach at Auburn and do jack shit. Gus Malzahn is easily the best coach here. And like I was saying earlier, he's not a terrible guy, but you can just kind of tell he's not the best guy. And it just brings some kind of oh, man, I really like this dude. He seems a little bit fun to hang out with, maybe slightly untrustworthy. I'm interested in someone like that.
Yep, and that gets me to number one in everybody's heart. He's got the best hair in the league. He's got the best swag. He's got his own sponsorship at OAN. I got Mike Gundy at number one. Mr. Consistency, hasn't won less than 7 games since fucking 2005. I mean, that's crazy, the level of consistency. Yes, I know you can nitpick that he hasn't really won the big one, but yeah, he won over 60% of his games in the Big 12. He 8 to 10 wins every year. He's my best coach because of his sustainment in the Big 12. That was fun because we all had somebody different up top and at the bottom. Let's transition over to a lot of the reason why these guys are successful. The quarterback position. We're going to just do our top 10, but Rush, I'll let you lead it off who you had at 11 through 14 because a lot of these quarterback rooms aren't settled yet. So we'll break down our top 10, but give me 11 through 14 for you.
Sounds good. I will start off with Cincy's quarterback, Emory Jones. It's exactly what Troy said. Yeah, is if he kept it, if he could game manage, he's not going to game manage. He's going to try to win every game on every possession of every play. Next, assuming he is the starter, Alan Bowman, Oklahoma State. The best ability is availability. The guy's just been injured. It's a different injury every year. We'll see what happens if he's not injured. Who knows? He could shoot to the very top of this list. Next, I have in line, we think it's going to be Garrett Green. Just hasn't played enough. But hey, when he has played, he's stepped up, been great. We just need to see a bigger body of work. And big question on this one was the starter over Duggan last year. Chandler Morris got injured start the season last year. I do think he actually has a great chance to be a good quarterback, especially, I mean, the fact that he beat Duggan in camp shows that, he has something there. It's just, what is that? And can you not get injured? And yeah, so some of these quarterbacks, like you said, we just don't know enough. So you just kind of have to take what you have. And I want Chandler Morris to do well, especially since he was the starter last year. Maybe he was the guy that was supposed to be the one to take TCU to the Natty, but got to wait and see.
How about you, Troy? Who'd you have as your bottom 4 or just by default?
Yeah, my bottom 4 are Emory Jones, Donovan Smith, Hunter Deckers, Keaton Slovis, just guys that you either already know suck balls or got like Hunter Deckers isn't getting any better. Keaton Slovis he's not getting any better. These guys, you might as well put an 18-year-old in there that maybe performed better than you would think in high school and maybe strike gold or something like that, or even fucking striking silver. But that's not like, those 4 guys are just, they're not going to play the whole year. I wouldn't think. It's
with the guys that we just don't know the most just by default. And they technically haven't won their jobs yet. You mentioned it, Bowman at Oklahoma State. It sounds like he's going to be the starter. Smith at Houston, although Dana's kind of kept the door open that they maybe could add somebody, maybe a Spencer Sanders if he doesn't win the Ole Miss job. Morris at TCU, and then Green at West Virginia. I'm higher on Green than most people, but I just can't rank him inside the top 10 until I see him do it more than 2-3 games. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with, or all of us are at with our 11 through 14. So let's get into our top 10 quarterbacks in the Big 12 headed into the year. Rush, I'll let you lead it off.
I actually do have Donovan Smith at 10. I know he kind of still falls into that what if. I think he's a very capable quarterback. I think he has a chance to, the ceiling is, he has a decent ceiling which he can reach, but the problem is that floor is also pretty low too. So which one are we going to see, especially at Houston? Time will tell.
Yep.
Number 10 is right where I have Garrett Green. I think he's got a little bit more potential than the 4 guys that I put down in the bottom 4. I don't think that you've seen enough of Garrett Green to say he's not going to get any better. I think there's still enough mysteriousness around him, and his nickname being Pat White just because he's white. I like that. I saw that on West Virginia Twitter the other day. I really like that.
Yeah, this is hard down here because you got a lot of unknowns. I went Slovis. Fuck him because he's a pick guy. But I just think that he's regressed every single year. So I'll put him at 10 and ultimate prove it year. I mean, you chase the pussy, then you got to come and be a Mormon for a year. You're 10th on my list. So
taking a vow of celibacy after.
Shit, I mean, you look at it, 2019, 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but that was 3 years ago. Last year's 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So I'll go Slovis at number 10.
My number 9, and here we go, another pronunciation issue. I thought it was Shaw. Apparently, you're supposed to pronounce the Shog, but then now I'm looking up on another website, it's actually Shuck. So we'll find out the pronunciation when the announcers, and maybe the announcers will mess it up. We've only heard that a couple times. I think this is his chance this year to really step in and be, the Texas Tech quarterback they need to get to that Big 12 championship. Another one that's dealt with some injuries in the past. I mean, actually, most of these quarterbacks have to some extent. So we'll see if he can avoid the injury bug and really step into his own this year under Joey McGuire.
Number 9 for me is where I have Bowman. Just really basing all of these on if dudes are going to be able to play all year long. I mean, if he gets banged up again, it wouldn't be surprising. But I think he can maybe take a little bit of a step forward at Oklahoma State, and the way they kind of simplify the game for their quarterbacks. I don't see the reason. That's kind of another reason why I don't think Spencer Sanders is going to transfer anywhere, because he's really not that great. I think that number 9 ranking, it's just going to be right around that, not quite good, almost could be, but, still middle of the pack.
Yeah, and to continue my theme of washed up guys that are on like their 4th, 5th chance, Emory Jones at number 9 for me at Cincinnati. Started at Florida, went to Arizona State, another journeyman. Who knows what the hell you're going to get playing for Satterfield. So Slovis and Jones are at the bottom of my top 10 based off of the unknown like the other guys. Back to you, Rush, at number 8.
I have Blake Shapen here, and maybe that's a little bit of a surprise to some. I know he won the Big 12 MVP when they won a couple years ago. And then I also saw him lay a complete egg in the Armed Forces Bowl last year. So I think just like his coach, it's going to be which version of Shapen are we going to see?
That game was bullshit. It was cold as fuck.
Yeah.
It was cold and windy and gross. Oh, man, that game doesn't
Just wait till you go to Provo.
Well, maybe that'll count.
Yeah.
At number 8 is where I have Chandler Morris, just kind of that whole Kendall Briles, Chad Morris, everything, SMU kind of picking up art or whatever after Sonny Dykes leaves, and then him still kind of being around and then getting the TCU job and being able to pick up the son of Chad. I just think there might be a little bit of the first couple of games of the year are already a little bit of continuity there between those guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I went back and forth on this one as well. I'm going to go with Shapen as well at Baylor. Just a little bit of up and down. I know he was great his freshman year, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but took a little bit of the sophomore slump. So I think a potential bounce back year, but I want to see him improve it a little bit more for me. And I got him ranked 8th, just like his coach.
Number, what are we at? 7
now?
Yeah. Keaton Slovis. Obviously, the injury bug there is is he going to be injured or not? The best ability is availability. But I do think he does fit the BYU system well. And I think it was very mature of him to be, hey, I will go to this Mormon school, deal with the honor code. If it means kind of what we've seen their quarterbacks, Jaron Hall getting drafted last year, Zach Wilson before. I mean, they are the quarterback factory historically, but they've also had a lot of recent quarterback success. Their guys always get looked at for NFL and get their chance in the NFL. And I think Keaton Slovis saw this and he said, all right, I can do this. So if he can avoid being injured, I actually think he's in the perfect system for himself, but obviously that's a big if. And it will he fall back into more his immature ways. So if he can do what he was set out to do, then I think he is kind of towards that middle for quarterbacks.
He's forced to be mature. He's at BYU now.
Well,
he's
I mean,
the fact that a whole year building up all of that testosterone and everything, he might be back.
No, I agree, but he also chose to go there. So I mean, that's hard.
You can't control your body. You got to want to do some things that are not that normal in Provo. So number 7 for me, I've got Tyler Shuck or whatever, he's a very bro-y guy. So we'll see. I mean, Texas Tech just really likes the gunslingers, and he really fits that mold. And there's a bunch of other guys in this league that have played for Texas Tech that probably going to be really motivated to play against him. So, you got to bring it every week. If you're a Texas Tech quarterback, they know they can just move guys around and pick up new slingers. But that's where I have him, number 7.
I got him at 7 too, and everybody talks about if he stays healthy, he never lost a start, but he didn't stay healthy a lot. And it was if he started and finished the game, he only played in 6 games last year, but he was there at the end of the year playing their best football. But you mentioned, I mean, you got Smith at Houston, you got Bowman at Oklahoma State, you got the freaking Lubbock quarterback factory in the Big 12 this year alive and well. So Shuck is my number 7. Back to you, Rush, for number 6.
I'm starting to think we should have ranked second string quarterbacks with all the injuries these starters had. It's like, geez, maybe it should be your second string. Who has the best second string? That'll win the Big 12 at this point. Next I have up, did a preview with him with Pick Dundee, Hunter Deckers. I know, Troy, you're very low on him. I don't think he's actually a bad quarterback. Threw for over 3,000 yards last year, 60% completion. His big problem is he loves to throw the interception. 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Needs to reduce those interceptions by at least 5 to 7. If he does that, I think, and follows Matt Campbell's lead, I think he can do great things this year. So
he does that because he's betting on the games,
probably. But and I get that's a big if, but I mean, at least, hey, stays healthy, kind of.
Something about being left-handed.
That's a big criteria.
Stay healthy. Criteria. Number 1.
Yeah. Number 6 for me is Rhys Plumlee. I've got Rhys Plumlee up here at number 6. I've seen him play at major, SEC football at Ole Miss and stuff like that, and he performed pretty well. Ups and downs. He seems like a guy that Gus Malzahn could probably convince. You matter to this team a lot. This is why we wanted to keep you around this whole time and brought you in. And I might see a little bit more out of him this year, I think, than what's been predicted.
He's higher on my list, actually. I got Deckers as well from Iowa State. I think he's going to take a bigger jump. I think that it was a young Iowa State team. He'll mature in that system in year number 2. I'll go Deckers as my number 6. Back to you, Rush.
Getting into the top 5 now, and this is where I have Plumlee, good dual threat quarterback. I think he's perfect for Central Florida. I think he fits, speaking of culture fit, I think he fits there well. And I think you're going to see big things from him this year, especially late in games.
Number 5 for me is Blake Shapen. I just wanted to put him in the top 5 so everybody knows when out of all the quarterbacks in this league, there's a few guys at the top that, could be getting some Heisman hype, probably not rightfully so, but Blake Shapen's going to end up being just the most consistent, best week-to-week quarterback in this league, and bringing in the leading rusher from Oklahoma State and just having a bunch of wide receivers and running back continuity. I just see Blake Shapen playing way better than expected.
Yeah, this league is a total shit show. I mean, you can make a case for a lot of these quarterbacks. I went Plumlee as well, the former transfer from Ole Miss. He was great last year, 2,500 yards through the air, almost 1,000 on the ground. Interested to see how that translates to the Big 12. He's a confident dude. You saw him at media day, taking pictures, taking selfies with everybody. I'm interested to see how he is in year 2 of the Gus Malzahn era, because it's a different system. So I got Plumlee as my number 5.
He something to note about him is he's also a pretty good baseball player. So he's got that mentality of, failure is just learning point. Let's go ahead and flush that out once we get what we know and move on along.
What do they say about baseball? Going to Sonny Dykes and Plumlee, it's a thinking man's game. If you're good at baseball, you're a smart person. You are, so we'll see how it can relate. Number 4, I have Quinn Ewers. I think the person that brings him down is his coaching, Steve Sarkisian. I think on this list, he's the one with the highest ceiling. He was the first person to he's the first one to sign $1 million NIL deal when he was over at Ohio State. He's now at Texas. But as we know, when Texas and expectations and their current coach doesn't mean anything if you have the largest ceiling at quarterback. But in terms of pure quarterback talent, that's why I have Quinn Ewers at number 4.
I have Quinn Ewers at number 4 because I'm not putting him in the top 3. Quinn Ewers, he could be really, really good. I just don't think you're ever going to see that. There's just something that prevents that consistency or whatnot. And it might just be I want to have the mullet. I want to be immature. And then, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change and be a little more straight head. I don't believe any of it. He just needs to go out and play football, and I don't think that's something that he can really concentrate on.
I thought he was awful in a couple of the biggest games last year. 17 of 39 against TCU, 19 of 49 for Oklahoma State. He was atrocious in Stillwater. I got him at number 4 as well. In my opinion, he's the most overrated player in the country because everybody talks about him as a top 5, top 3 quarterback in the country. He's not even a top 3 quarterback in the Big 12. So he's at number 4 and the most overrated player headed into the season for me, just like his coach and their program.
No, I agree. It's people. Just because you have a high ceiling doesn't mean you're a great player. You still have to prove it. Number 3, the other team that's about to leave the Big 12, Dillon Gabriel. He is a great quarterback, and he's proved it more than yours. It's you don't want to give Oklahoma the compliment, but I really. He's fun to watch, and I actually think he's the reason that Venables was able to pull out a 6-6 season last year. So he's the one that kept him in the games. So the problem you have with him is the Venables factor. Is he going to coach him down to Venables level? Because a quarterback can only bring their coach up for so long. But in terms of pure quarterback talent, he's fantastic. So I have him at number 3.
I kind of assumed that everybody's 1 and 2 was going to be the same just from the previous shows that we've done. So I went a little bit in a different direction here. I've got Skylar Howard at number 3.
You got Skylar Howard, the old West Virginia quarterback.
The old. I got.
He was number 3
That's how
in
long
his
we've
day,
been
baby.
watching. Yeah, baby. You got Will Howard at number 3. He could be any. These guys are all 1 through 3. That's just kind of how they're grouped on my list. I'm just now assigning numbers to them for the sake of going through the discussion. I like Will. They competed. They won the Big 12 championship against a team that then turned around and kind of made Michigan look pretty dumb. So that guy has some game to him. But I'll put him at 3 so we can deviate from one another.
I like it. I'm back with Rush here. I got Gabriel. I thought he was really good at UCF with Malzahn as well. And then the previous tenure. And I thought he was pretty good at Oklahoma. Unlike Ewers, I thought he elevated his team to actually keep them in the games, while Ewers' team lost games because of Ewers. So I got Gabriel. I thought when he went down, it really hurt him for a couple weeks. But, yeah, I got him at number 3. Big year for him in Oklahoma here in year number 2 in that system. Rush?
So kind of just along the lines of what Troy's saying, and we've talked about it in previous shows. My last 2, both from the state of Kansas. I know you're the same with you, Ryan, is obviously Jalon Daniels and Will Howard. I have Will Howard ahead for Kansas State because of his success. Who knows? Jalon Daniels would have maybe done just as well. So I'll put Jalon Daniels at number 2, but he is entering the Big 12 as, the Big 12 quarterback of the year. So we'll see how that goes. The question is, can he stay healthy? Same question with Will Howard. Can he stay healthy as well? Jalon Daniels, just that dual threat ability is just incredible. He brings a great energy. You can tell when he's in the lineup that Kansas just plays up. And then for Will Howard, I have him at number 1. I think he has an excellent mind. I think he has great decision-making. I think he has obviously the number 1 coach. I think Kansas State can do incredible things this year. Just got to stay healthy with him.
So for my number 2, I decided to go with Jalon Daniels.
Oh, wow. We flipped.
Oh, yeah. Super flip because one of the guys, Dillon Gabriel is my number 1 guy, and that's going to be like a Heisman ticket you probably want to hold on to. I really, really think that even if Oklahoma is not that great, he really drags that whole team. And I think Jalon does the same thing. It's just more of a like showstopper style instead of Dillon Gabriel just kind of wears you down play after play and, really understands what the tempo does to opening people up and when to make big shots. But I think Dillon Gabriel might even get a New York invite. He seems pretty dang good for him to have this much success in multiple programs, and maybe not winning loss-wise last year, but you could tell the difference when he wasn't on the field. They had already quit.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, that he definitely elevated his team, and they have no shot or had no shot without him. I have Howard as my number 2, just a total winner. Got him better every single year at K-State. We mentioned it when he took over for Adrian Martinez. They went on their run, won every start down the stretch until Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, made big throws in that TCU game. He's at number 2. I got Jalon Daniels just because his team is not like Will Howard's. His team literally only relies on Jalon Daniels, and Lance Leipold's done a great job. It really started 2 years ago when he entered Jalon Daniels as a starter the last 4 games of the year. They went to Texas and won. They were competitive down the stretch, almost beat West Virginia in the last game of the year. And he took it into another level this last year. He was a Heisman candidate the first 6 games before he got hurt. They won every game, and then they couldn't buy a game once he went down. So I got him as number 1, and I think he's alive for the Heisman at 80-1 this year. So, yeah, no, you go a lot of different ways, a lot of good coaches, and I think the theme with the quarterbacks this year is who could stay healthy. I think we can all agree with that.
I kind of wish we would have done it. No, I'm glad the way we did it because on the individual, but I think what would have been interesting is if you had the coach and quarterback and you rated them as 1. And is this the coach bring up the quarterback or the quarterback bring up the coach? Because I mean, a couple of these, it's you got the coach down here, with Texas, you got the coach down here and then the quarterback up here, and sometimes vice versa. So
and Oklahoma,
maybe next year for preseason we'll do it that way.
Well, if we know who the starters are,
well, that's fair too.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of it.
It's not like the NFL. That's the problem with it is, I mean, we don't know half of these start. I mean, we know, but there's just so much unknown at the bottom half of this quarterback room. So that'll wrap it up for another edition of the Big 12 College Experience. We are back later in the week to preview the top non-con games. And there's a lot of good ones here.
Excited for
Bowl, this. Alabama, Texas, the Iowa Bowl, Iowa State. But before, like every show, we get up on out of here. Rush, tell everybody where to find you and tell us about your good work.
At Rambling Rush, Twitter, Instagram. Been enjoying some of the engagement lately. Keep reaching out on there. You can also follow me and Ryan on at the Ryan and Rush Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's our West Virginia focus show. As again, I'm located in Morgantown, so excited to already almost have week 2 in the books, and imagine when the games start.
Troy,
you can basically just find me on Twitter at Troy Chewning, my full name. I mean, it's the most likely chance you get to interact with me just because I'm on it way too much, super addict. About to have some sweet weed trimming photos that I have up there on that. If you're into that thing, check it out. So
if you want some greens, slide in the DMs of the Big 12 Guru. You can find me at Moneyline_Mac. Go check out the main show as well, all 133 previews, and follow Pick Dundee for Mountain West and Pac-12 Media Day recap. We will talk to you later in the week about some non-conference game, but good luck with whatever you're betting on nowadays. The dog days of summer are almost done.
Get those early Heisman tickets in. Go ahead and take, Jalon Daniels and Dillon Gabriel, and maybe hold on to them first couple of weeks. If you're offered a cash out, take it.
Hey,
No
mine's
doubt.
fine. The best second string quarterback.
Huh?
It's not a bad angle, too. That's what Max Duggan was.
Yeah.
So, hey, and don't forget to let it ride.